Actually, you know what? I don't want to do. I don't.
Okay, everybody.
I'm okay. It's okay.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Hello.
It's 1:02 p.m. on Saturday, February the 10th, 2024. I'd like to welcome you all to the Columbus chapter meeting for the American Council of the Blind. I'm the president, Janae Miller. I also would like to welcome you all, as well as give a disclaimer that this meeting is being recorded for our YouTube channel. So anything that you say here will be on public display. So let's be mindful of that. This meeting is being recorded. This is our meeting recording disclaimer. So I'd like to welcome everybody. Hope you all have had a wonderful week and been enjoying the wonderful weather. We have a lot to cover today before our speaker arrives around 2:30. So first thing we'd like to do is, if we can, get roll call. Can we start in Zoom? Would that be possible, or do we, when we come back to Zoom?
Yes,
Zoom's okay.
give me just a second. So, in Zoom at the moment, we have, in no particular order, myself, Chuck Atkins, Larry and Nikki Hansen, Kathy Withman, Mark Brodigam, Gail Horton, Katie Frederick, Patrick Simmons, and so far that concludes the list. If people show, oh, hang on.
Okay, that's the list in Zoom. Thank you.
Actually, wait a sec. If I
Okay.
can, why did it do that? No. Why didn't it? Yeah, I'm trying to do that. Denise is going to be here momentarily now that I can properly get her into the meeting. There we go.
Okay.
Denise is
Okay, good. So Sean, can we count you twice because you're in person and in the room?
I don't know if that's quite necessary, but okay.
I'm being funny with that one. Okay, so now let's go to the attendants in the room, please. So, of course, myself, Janae Miller.
Lee Tucker.
That was Lee Tucker.
Dustin Grantstaff.
Margot Muse.
Carol Riddle.
We have guests.
Mark Bach.
Laura Bach. Mary Lynn Pifo, member.
That was Mary Lynn Pifo.
Erwin Hott.
Marilyn, you talked to Marilyn.
Julie Russell. Juanita Meyer.
Mike Russell.
Mary Carabinas.
Ed Snively.
And that's it for now.
That's it for now. Okay, well, thank you for.
Mary Highland has also joined in Zoom.
Okay, Mary Highland has joined in on Zoom. Thank you so much.
I'll try to indicate new Zoom entrants at an appropriate pause. I'll try to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Sean. That would be great. All right. So now what I would like to do is, did everybody get a chance to look at the meeting minutes from last month's meeting? Is there any questions, concerns, changes that need to be noted from last month's meeting minutes?
I have 3.
You have 3?
Okay. Yes, and I have emailed them to Ed as well, but I figured I might as well mention them. It mentions that Mary Lynn purchased stamps and envelopes, but it does not indicate that those are for Sunshine Committee. That should probably be added for clarity, because otherwise it makes it look like she's buying stuff for for Lee, and that's not what happened. So I would suggest that that be added for clarity. Second, when introducing the ACB Ohio portion of the meeting. Michelle Spillan's first name needs corrected. It is misspelled. And finally, when dues are mentioned and it's mentioned that you can call the office, that number is incorrect. I don't know where that number came from, but it's definitely not the right one. So that needs to be corrected as well. And those are the corrections I noticed when I was looking at the minutes.
Is there anyone else that has any corrections for the meeting minutes for last month's meeting?
This is Ed. I already made some corrections, but I didn't catch
So Ed indicated that he had made some corrections but hadn't seen those. I'm just repeating for
Okay.
Zoom.
He was to talk.
So, Ed, do you have the office number so that I can make sure that's corrected in the minutes?
So what happened is when the mention was made of the different ways you could pay dues, an incorrect number is there. It has something. I don't know where it came from, but it's not at all like the office number. The office number, of course, is 614-261-3561. Yeah, something may have gotten transposed somewhere,
Thank you.
but I think you'll see it when you look at it.
Thank you.
Any other discussion around the minutes? Would someone like to make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes?
Sean, I so move.
Anyone want to take the second it?
Lee Tucker, I second.
Okay, Sean has moved and Lee has seconded. All in favor, say aye.
I
I,
Any nays? Okay, the meeting minutes have been approved. Now we're gonna go and have a good deep discussion about the budget because we have to really cover that. So Lee has some things he would like to present. He did send it out to the membership list, but we need to have some discussion and get you all's thoughts regarding how we're gonna spend money for the year, at least for the first half of the year, things of that sort. So Lee?
Okay. First, I need to cover the financial report and
Okay.
then we'll get to the rest.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
fine. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, sir. Thank you.
And this went out very late yesterday, so I apologize for that. Anyhow, let's see, this is the financial report for February 9th, 2024 for the period 1st of January 13th through 2024 to February 9th, 2024. Checking account, the ending balance was $15,277, which is a decrease of $1,997.18. Deposits, dues, $60.50. Network for good, $19. PHP pennies, deposit to checking, $14. Notice that has $14 even. Anyway, just, pointing that out. Anyway, expenses, ACB Ohio dues, that's where we pay $10 a head for the state of Ohio dues and also the national dues, which is $5 each, and that was $40. There's a transfer of pennies to PHP because I didn't see that the bank teller put it in the wrong account. And then AT&T is the telephone line is $16.11. And charge card payment was $1,900, $74.69. And that is paying for the Christmas dinner is most of that. And the other part is the Kroger cards, more Kroger cards. And there's a Zelle fee of 50 cents. The balance outstanding is the 50-cent Zelle fee, and there were 2 outstanding checks cashed for a total of $45.88. On the charge card, as I said above, the payment was made. And I'm interested to see that there's a typo here. It says $1,978.69. One or the other of those numbers is wrong. I don't know which one at the moment. There was a new charge made of $150 for 6 more Kroger cards. We're going to the hospital too much. And another tax bandit charge of $4.25 for the 1099-NEC. People helping people, an ending balance of $2,759.60. An increase of $14, which is the above mentioned incorrectly deposited pennies to the checking account. So it's a transfer of $14. There's a grant that hasn't been come through the checking account yet, $247.24. And Denise will cover that when she talks about the PHP. So that's an outstanding check. The savings account is its usual unchanged self, $6,244.01. The Columbus Foundation, the estimated market value of our fund in the Columbus Foundation is $86,160.84, which is a decrease since December 31st of $6,113.45. And we now know what the spring grant will be. It will come to a total of $5,658.47, which is higher than my estimate by $1,250. And last year, for comparison purposes, the total grants we received from Columbus Foundation was $6,400.50. And last line is the payout year to date for the engagement benefit, which is just January, is $90. Concludes the treasurer's report.
Any questions regarding the treasury report for Lee? Hold on, well, let's get the mic around to you. Hold on.
Okay, I just wanted somebody to repeat the amount they had in the people helping people, because I'm considering applying for some of it.
The amount in the People Helping People Fund is $2,759.60.
You can just basically say, you know, it's roughly around 2,800, just under $2,800. 2,700 and something dollars change. Yeah. Mhm. Any other questions?
Explain the tax bandit thing.
Yes. That is about the CPR class, as I'll call it. And not knowing how all this I paid by check. And then I received a form back from the person's business that had an equivalent of an EIN number. It's a TIN number. And that told me that I didn't know what I was doing. So I spent the next 2 days researching what I was supposed to do. I went down the rabbit hole of a 1099-ME miscellaneous, which is not used for that. It's now called non-employee compensation, the 1099 NEC. And then, so I went to a website finally, because I tried to actually create an IRS account, but it got confused with the IRS account I have, and I wasn't able to create the ID. So I gave up and I went to a website where you can file these things. And they charge like $4.25 to file a 1099, which had to be done twice because their website had an error in it. So is that enough of an explanation, or shall I do more?
Yes.
Okay. It was a convenient service. It just, if they would fix their website, that might be nice, because I can tell they have a website bug because they actually had to paste a banner over the top of their main page that said, you've got to watch for the date when you're putting the thing in. Well, gee, it would have been nice if they told me that in November. Okay, so enough about that.
Okay, thank you, Lee, for explaining that. Any other questions concerned about the treasurer's report? If there's no other discussion, would someone like to make a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve the report that's corrected.
Okay, anyone would like to second it? So Erwin has made a motion to approve. Ed has seconded that motion. All in favor, please say aye. Anyone Any nays? Okay, the treasurer's report has been approved. Now I would like to, for Lee to, let's have a discussion around the budget for the year and how we as a chapter are going to utilize our funds.
So this typically is the time of the year when we would make some donations to organizations which serve the blind and visually impaired community of Central Ohio. For example, last year, for the whole year, we made 4 $1,000 donations, and 1,000 went to Voice Corps, 1,000 went to Newsreel, 1,000 went to ACB Ohio for the matching grant program, and 1,000 went to Pilot Dogs, the orientation and mobility program. And similarly, our budget for the year includes $4,000 for donations to organizations supporting our community. And so there are several ways we could go. I mean, I could propose that the chapter approve donations of $1,000 to each of 3 of the above organizations in the fall. Then I would plan making a separate proposal to donate $1,000 to a 4th, or we could choose to donate to all 4 organizations at the February business meeting, or we could donate to different organizations altogether, or we could choose to go down another path. So therefore, for your consideration, I'm going to open the floor and see what people would like to bring forward as thoughts on this matter.
So anyone that has ideas in Zoom, if you would raise your hand and Sean will call on you. We like to hear your thoughts around
Okay.
this.
So Mary Highland's hand is raised.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question, Lee. I'm not really understanding, what would be the purpose of proposing 3 organizations now and then 1 later? What's the benefit of that?
There really isn't none. Last year, that's what we did.
Oh, okay.
And so that, it's just like, oh, wow, that's what happened last year.
Okay. Okay. Well, I have a suggestion for spending some money. Would this be appropriate time or?
Yes, it would be.
Okay. Have we ever donated to audio description?
I don't think we have. You mean like audio
No, I
description
don't.
project?
Sorry?
You talk about the audio description project?
Yes. The service of audio description. When a person goes to a play or some production, somebody has to pay for that. It's, the describers get paid and there is the cost of the equipment, etc. There are expenses, and I think it would be nice if we supported that as an organization. I'm not really sure how that would be managed, but I'd be willing to research that and possibly have a small committee to determine how that should be handled. Because there are so many different venues in Columbus, and I believe it's the venue that has to pay. I mean, for instance, if you have something at the Lincoln Theater, the Lincoln Theater has to pay for it.
Yeah.
Well, I love the idea, and I
So I
think,
see.
go ahead. Well, I was gonna say, first of all, let me say this. I love the idea because it is something that benefits us as people who are blind and visually impaired or low vision. And I also love the idea of having a committee where it's more than at least a minimum of 3 people that get together and research that. And I'll be happy to help with that because I love the idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I can see 2. I'll get to you, Katie, in just a moment. Because I'm wanting to do 1 Zoom, 1 in person, and back and forth. So I could see this working 2 ways. A donation could be made to the audio description project, which is a sub-arm of ACB National. That's one thing that could be done. But the other thing, and I think this might be more what Mary is talking about, is donating to Jane Ehrenfeld or whatever organization that she has. because I'm sure, as Mary said, there are probably expenses that she may incur as part of this process. So I don't know, does that kind of dovetail with what you're thinking, Mary?
Yes, I'm thinking more in terms of local.
Okay.
In the Columbus
So let me
area.
ask a question real quick before you go over to someone else in Zoom. So just so I can understand, so when you say local, does that mean covering all of like any of the theaters that are associated with Kappa, for example?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure. You know, that would be the Lincoln, of course, the Howell
That
Theater,
would be fun.
Palace, all of those.
Right, short north stage.
North
Yeah.
Stage, correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if I may interject here, when Accessible Arts died, our equipment was donated to Kappa. And as far as I know, the last time I went, that's equipment that's still being used.
Mhm.
So I presume Jane is paid for every time she broadcasts. So maybe that would be what support would go to. And
Yeah,
possibly-
that's my thinking. Yeah.
But the other part
Katie's-
is that equipment is really ancient.
Well, I was just at the Southern Theater for a concert, and I requested audio description for it, and they provided it, but the receiver was really very different from what I was used to years ago. So I'm not sure they're using the same equipment. There was a totally different receiver.
And that's something that should be researched as well, what they're using the
Right.
technology.
Right. All the nitty gritty the committee can hammer out.
Yeah, yeah. So let's, who has to, hold on, who
Katie.
hasn't, Katie does, okay, go ahead.
Yes, so you kind of already covered it. My suggestion was going to be that we donate to Kappa, Central Ohio Performing Arts, because I think they're the ones who manage all of the arts. And so that's probably the best course of action. So that was going to be my suggestion, but it's kind of already been covered. So I will go back on mute.
Thank you, Katie.
And I would just dovetail on that and say that it would be earmarked for audio description.
That would be a good idea. Yeah.
This is Julie Russell. I don't know if anybody, I'm sorry. I don't know if anybody out there knows this, but you can download an app now. And that app will allow you to listen to all the stuff without getting a listening device. And I used it, when was that when we went there, Mike? We went, I think, back at Christmas time. And I used it. And if you're walking down the street, you can't use it. You have to be in the building. So you're not going to get a freebie. But it works pretty nicely. You bring your own earphone or earplugs, and then you put those in, and then you get on the app, and you get the same thing.
Mhm.
Is that for movie theaters, Julie? Or
As far as I know, I haven't read much. I should have read
Yeah.
about it, but I was in a hurry to download it, so I didn't read about it.
What
I think
venue
that's
is
just
that?
for movies. I don't think that's not for live audio description. I don't believe.
Yes, that you were in a movie theater, right?
No, I was in a play.
It might be one where they have a
I don't
pre-recorded
think it'd
track.
be a-
Some of those do that. So
It would be interesting to know what the name of that app is, but I still think we should, you know, at least consider this idea for live performances.
yeah.
I don't want to take it home with me and forget it. So now I can do it on my phone.
we have no hands in Zoom at the moment, so Mary Lynn.
One thing I do want to bring up is the difference between audio description support and what we're supporting now. The things we're supporting now are organizations specifically serving the blind, not the general public. When someone serves the public, of course, they have the responsibility of providing access. So just something to think about. There's a difference between contributing to cover the expense of an entity that is required to give access because they serve the public, and providing money toward an organization that does not serve the public and specifically provides service to the blind. It's just differentiation we need to think about. I think audio description is great. I think support is great, but I just thought of that difference. And if we want to spread into the arena of paying for what a vendor is required to do when they serve the public to give equal access, that's all.
Katie has her hand raised in Zoom.
Yes, ma'am.
So I think to to Mary Lynn's point, yes, if an establishment does receive federal funding, if there is an accommodation request for audio description, they have to provide that under the ADA. That is true. But I do think, donating to CAPA, specifically the audio description part, we can earmark it. I think if we can earmark it toward that, I think that's doing a couple things. A, that's getting our name out there to the public, right? To CAPA, to that audience that may not know that we exist. And it's also helping ensure that when those of us who want to go patronize the theaters, can do that, and just providing that service. So I think it's a good point, but still, I think worthwhile to consider donating to CAPA with the caveat of earmarking the funds toward making the arts more accessible through audio description.
Well, any other thoughts? So the app is called Listen Everywhere. Okay.
I'll have to look at that one.
Okay. So what I would, unless anybody else has any comments, I would like to suggest that those who are interested in maybe doing this research, or maybe we can talk about this if we can't make a decision today, next month, to reach out to me. We can definitely have a committee, because that's one of my topics is committees. And we should have a budget committee to look at these kind of things going forward. But like I said, I love the idea, because we need to get our name out there, and that even would, if I'm going to also segue into even saying, when Katie mentioned about getting our name out there, one thing that I'm understanding we haven't done in a while as a chapter is fundraising, and we are a not-for-profit. And in order to have money to even give back, we got to also do an ask every so often to have people give to us as well. We can't always maybe rely on or assume that someone's going to maybe donate for this function or that function, mainly, especially our two main ones that we do during the year. And so even within having a budget committee, maybe some fundraising ideas can be tied into that, as having at least, a minimum of 3 people get together to talk about how we can go back to doing some fundraising for the Columbus chapter that will benefit what we do here locally in the city, and how we need to support our causes and our issues. And doesn't the brass quartet people sound great over there? So I would like anybody that's interested in being a part of a committee that tackles that, unless we need to cover something else, Lee, with that. Just the main thing.
No, just the other item we talked about, but it's afterwards.
Afterwards, okay. Okay. So I like the idea. Do you all want to vote on that now, or should we have some further discussion, or let's probably do some research before we really decide what we're going to do? And just cover what Mary Highland has suggested, because I think it's a great idea. And I think we should also look at even donating to the ADP project, which is, what ACB has been pushing, and we need to do that, because it is benefiting us, not just locally, but since we are part of a national organization. Audio description project. Yep, audio description project. That's what the acronym stands for. Yes. Sure.
coming?
So I do like the idea of giving to News Corps, Voice Corps, and the ACB Ohio. So I'm in favor of doing those three as well.
So you said you're in favor of doing the same thing we did last year? Okay. Just want to make sure I was clear.
Mhm. Why don't we table it till next month and
Yeah, we'll
do
table this
then
next
act
month, but
next month?
we're giving you guys something to think about. And so what we want to do now is go into our committee reports. Oh, one more thing. Okay, Lee has one more thing. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yes, to me, this is exciting. As many of you know, there's been active fundraising going on regarding purchasing a device, which I do not remember the alphabet soup for, but
It's
I'm calling it
AED.
which?
AED.
An AED. So in other words, if I
think
fall
you're saying it
over and
right,
start
AED.
gasping, you grab something that has paddles on it and slap them on me and I might wake up again. You never know. Anyway, or you can just leave me alone and you're done. Yep.
It's similar to a defibrillator.
Mhm.
If you took the CPR class, whether you took it last year or you took it, that's Lee's phone, or you took it at the state convention, it's the device that they showed us how to use, that you use if need be to shock somebody's heart back into
Mhm.
rhythm. And I believe it's called an AED. I think it's the right letters, if I remember correctly.
Now, and I'm standing next to Mike Russell if you want to cut in and talk about it, but you and Julie have been actively fundraising through there you go. Tell us what you-
Okay, we've raised $500 through Welfare Association for the site list for this electronic device, heart device for the church. And the church said if we raised 500 and got 500, they would throw in the rest for the device. I talked to the minister here, and we did a little bit of research, and I forgot, John Hopkins said 3,700 people a year get saved by these things that they know of. Oh, it was 1,700, I'm sorry. So I figure the highest share of that to be 38 people. But as these things get more around, there's going to be quite a few more saved. And I tried to do research on CPR, and I can't find where they got any statistics at all on anybody being saved. Apparently, if you don't get something on somebody pretty soon, it don't make much difference. I mean, I talked to a fireman and he said CPR is great, but it probably, if you don't get them pretty quick, the quicker the better. I cannot find a statistic anywhere on how many people have been saved by CPR. So that's all I can tell you.
So if I've got this right, so WAS has raised $500. Yes. Yeah. And the church would be willing to kick in $500. So, okay. Okay. And so it's been put to me a couple of times that maybe the chapter here could kick in $500. And I've talked to one other person who opposed that. Anyway, but then I thought, this is silly. I know people who might be willing to donate just to this. So I talked to a couple of people, and we have two $250 donations to come up with the $500, which would complete what we need to do. So at the moment, these donations would be made to ACB Columbus chapter, and then we would donate, direct it to WAS. So was that comprehensive enough for people to understand, or should I explain more?
I understand. Any questions from anybody in the room or on Zoom?
Like Mary?
Then Katie will go after Mary.
Okay.
So this device would stay here in the church, and that would be to benefit church members and us, I guess, for our meetings. And that's what you're getting. I'm getting.
That, yeah, that's what I'm hearing is yes.
Okay, Katie's hand in Zoom.
Yes,
There it
ma'am.
is.
I am just curious about the cost because when I took the CPR class, I didn't think these were that expensive. So just kind of curious about the costs, and is the group looking at buying more than one?
They told us that the CPR class $400. We can't find it. We saw 700. That doesn't include the cabinet. That's a reconditioned one. The pastor here at the church looked on the internet. I think he's looking at $1,560 or something, including the cabinet that it goes in and all that stuff for a new one. The cheapies that I've heard about, I've not been able to find. And we've looked pretty hard.
So that's full cost with installation then. Okay.
Any questions, any thoughts, from anybody?
I would just say if the 1500 is correct for a new one, I would say that sounds pretty reasonable to me. I'm not familiar with the technology, but that seems like a pretty small amount to how much it could actually help.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I remember when we learned to use it at the CPR class, it was very eye-opening. You see it on, TV all the time, and that's even what they use in hospitals too. But it's put in a kind of a portable fashion.
The other thing, if it would be helpful, because I know I work at Arc Industries and I know we have one. I could see if somebody knows what the cost of that was, but that is not necessarily that's a unit that might be a little bit older. So the what they paid then could be different from what it is currently. I can certainly ask, but
Hello, this is Gail Horton. Can you people hear me?
Yes.
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 I have been trying to get unmuted for the last half an hour. Haven't been able. Denise Bauman is also having the same trouble, so I just called in.
Okay, so a couple of things. And I didn't get a chance to mention it before we started. Well, there's two things. One, there is a phone number ending in 7715. If you could let me know who you are, please.
Sure, it's Gail Horton. Hang on, just put my
Oh, that's
last.
your.
What is,
Okay, I got it.
I'm doing One Tap Mobile. I gave up. I restarted the computer. I did everything, and my
Okay.
Zoom is acting bizarre, but apparently so is Denise's as well.
Okay, so what happens now on the computer when we come into this meeting? Lee is already recording it, and
Okay, fine.
it used to be that the dialog box that would tell you that was easier to get to. Now you need to press F6 several times until you reach the thing about the meeting being recorded, and you need to tab over to OK and activate that.
I'm just going to stay on the phone for
that's
now.
fine, but I'm just letting people know it has changed.
Okay.
And I didn't. When I saw you leaving and coming back, I was assuming you were having internet problems. I didn't even think about the because if you don't choose that option that says you're okay with being recorded, you cannot unmute. And that is a protection that Zoom has put in by design so that people who don't consent to that cannot be recorded. So you.
Okay, Denise, if you're hearing that, F6.
Yeah, F6.
Anyway.
Do it. And I didn't get a chance to mention that before we started. I apologize.
Okay. So where were we?
Are we at proposal stage or not?
So yes, we are. Sorry, I was lost in listening to all that was going on.
Yeah.
Do you want me to ask about what the cost was for the one that
Yes.
we have at work? Okay.
See what they find out from your folks at work and see if it's comparable to what Mike and Julie have done in their research. as
Well,
well.
I'll see.
Well,
what I
that's
can do.
about cost, but the donations are kind of a separate.
Okay, so
Mhm.
so let's do a proposal as to what
Yeah.
we want to do.
Because, and I'm going to try to phrase this so it makes some sense. Anyhow, given that the chapter will receive $250 donations for support of a worthy cause, which is the support of a AED device or
Yes,
what it's
AED.
called. I'm
what?
proposing that those donations be accepted and then channeled to WAS for the purchase of and support of that equipment or here in the church. Should somehow the cost turn out to be less than what is the church has been saying, then maybe some of that money will come back to the chapter.
I would like to second that.
And I can't really comment since I have no clue what you're talking about, but that's okay.
Okay, all
Ed, second that.
Ed second. So Lee proposed, made a motion for that. Ed has seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
No nays. Okay, that proposal has been approved.
Thank you, group.
So
Another
yes, let's.
donate.
I'll be excited to get those actual numbers and see. Thank you, Mike and Julie for bringing that up.
Marilyn has a question in the room.
Mary Lynn? Okay.
Raise your hand higher.
Question I have, will this be kept in a place in the church where we can get to it easily without roaming around and looking here and looking there before the person's already dead? In other words, the rest of the people of the church, they can run down here and grab it. I think we need to stress to the church that it needs to be within easy reach of where we meet, so we can get to it easily and quickly.
We can definitely do that.
Yep.
Yeah, we can take care of that. Okay.
We were testing it and I can pretty much get to any part of this church in 2 minutes. And you got 5 minutes. So hopefully they'll put it down here where we can get at it, but it would make the most sense to them to put it down here anyway, because the church can get it down to here in 2 minutes too. So I don't see any problem with it.
Yeah, the upstairs hall that's immediately behind the way that you came in, Dustin. So it's kind of in the corner, not the hall to the parking lot, but the other hall is where our access equipment is. So that would be a great place if they would stick it there, because that's just around, we can reach that in about 20 seconds. So hopefully they do it there. But that,
Okay, I think
I
you
think
can
you
hear,
can hear,
I went through and did the Alt F6 thing and we're good.
Yes.
You have to tap to okay, Denise, too.
Yeah. So
Well,
if
it
Gail,
says
if you could hang
meeting's
up
being
your
recorded.
iPhone now.
I did.
All right. Good.
Okay,
We got
so we're
you.
moving to a new church. Okay.
No, no, no.
Oh,
Okay, so let's move on to our committee reports, please. So Sunshine Committee.
Speak up. Yeah. No, Marilyn.
I guess the information now is going through Mary Lynn. Because, like, I don't know whether everybody knows or not, I fell and had a brain issue. And then I found out this week I have Parkinson's.
Oh.
So now these two things are really kind of messed me up right now. But I know Mary Lynn do a very good job. In fact, we're sending her all the information I have of the people that I have sent Kroger cards too. Plus, the, the, the people that I got, or the paper I got from Sandy when I first took over of all the rules. And also
Okay.
I do have $30 left at Mary Lynn. Larry will get that over to you.
We were just kind of thinking that, like we were saying, Janae, the Sunshine Committee has kind of evolved into one person over the years. It really should be a committee.
Yes, and it should be. I agree, and that's what I was going to bring up.
And
I do too.
And with the situation now with Nikki, we certainly want to be a part of it, and but maybe if we had more of a committee approach, that would help. And we were just going to get we have a balance of $30 in the envelope here for those Kroger cards.
Well, let me say this, Larry. I want Nikki to stay a part of it. Both of you stay a part of it as long as you can, but we do need to have more of a committee team approach because we're all kind of a little family here to a degree.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it shouldn't just be on one person to be doing any of this, really.
Right. I understand. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And we certainly appreciate what Mary Lynn's done here in the last few months, kind of picking up the slack.
Yeah.
And so thank you, Mary Lynn, for what you've been doing. And personally, I certainly appreciated getting a Kroger card, from my mom passing away. I really didn't expect that, but
She was 107.
107. My mom was 107, and it's one of those things that it's not unexpected, but it's tough to deal with when it does happen. And so, but I do appreciate hearing from the group with that card. And I don't know if we've really done a whole lot of that over the past few years. I think it's been more when a member has been hospitalized. That would prompt the Kroger card, but the loss of even a guide dog, that's part of the rule, or not the rules, but the statement that Sandy gave Nikki way back when we started here, sort of outlining what the Sunshine Committee does, even including attending funeral services or visitations for members. We've kind of gotten away from that, I think, over the years.
And I think we should go back to that, honestly.
COVID
kind of
messed things up. But
Understandable.
it's something, we should probably just take another look at what the Sunshine Committee does. And, we certainly want to keep being a part of it.
And I want you to. And I even think that not just looking at when people are in bereavement or people are under the weather or ill or in the hospital, but even celebrating because it's sunshine. So we should be celebrating in general, maybe not sending out a card to every single member, but maybe something where we acknowledge all the birthdays, say in January, or all the February birthdays, or all the March birthdays, something like that, so we can celebrate some things, not just look at those things too.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah.
So again, this is something I'm willing to help out with. If you want to be a part of the Sunshine Committee, we need to please reach out to me and reach out to Larry and Nikki, because we need to again have more of a team approach for everything that we do here.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
So if that's okay with Mary Lynn at this point, I was just gonna drop all those materials off to her and put it in her mailbox or whatever. Because we've got the list of who's received cards for the last 2 years. And then there's a balance of $30 that we have to put toward those cards in the future.
And the rules.
And the rules.
In the rules. So
yeah.
Mary Lynn,
Is that okay, Mary Lynn?
Well, dropping it off in the mail will be print. That's why it'd be better if you emailed the stuff in an email that needs reading. But things that aren't for reading, like the balance and that's fine. Drop off in the mailbox.
and Marilyn, are you okay with folks hoping, that we kind of give it back, come back to a more community approach, committee approach? I can't even say it. Committee approach.
I think that's great. I do.
Okay.
Well, basically, Nikki and I have consulted over at least a year about, the Sunshine Committee, but I'm not officially part of it. Glad to serve. But like I said, I've been consulting with Larry and Nikki to find out who got cards in 23, because my understanding is it's one per year. I haven't had a chance to look at the guidelines yet or the list, but I'm
Well,
just
would
kind
you-
of pinch hitting and going by
Right.
what
Well,
Nikki and Larry have guided me about the guidelines and everything, and I'm glad to serve, but I think a committee is a good idea.
yes, and
I do too. Yeah.
so, and you're welcome to be a part of it if you would like to be, Mary. Like I said, I want the committees to be a minimum of 3 people.
That'd be good. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you all for that, and we need to keep everybody in our thoughts and our prayers if it's for, and all of us. So PHP.
Actually, really quick, is there a report for Sunshine that needs to happen? Because we've talked about the committee and stuff, but is there anything that we need to know about anyone this month before we move on?
Is there anything that we need to know, Mary Lynn?
Yeah.
Well,
Several, I found out months later, they needed a card, so I had to check with Larry and Nikki to see if they got one. So we're still kind of playing catch up.
well, let her do that, and we can circle back around to this in March.
Well, and what I can do, once I know the guidelines, I can email
Yeah,
little blurbs about
That's
who's
fine.
gotten and what. But first I need to find out what are the guidelines for privacy and how much should I or should I not put in the email.
That's fine, and that's fine. But I still say, let her play catch up, and we can revisit this in March, and get
That's
a good rundown. Let's see. Okay, so let's get to PHP, please.
PHP. We recently mailed a check to someone the committee had approved last month. And we also have an applicant that's requested assistance to complete the application. So that's going to get scheduled tomorrow.
Okay, cool. All right. ACBO Ohio.
Actually, can I
All right.
can I interject something real quick?
Sure.
Denise Lee, were we going to talk about the
And Gail.
changes we made to the guidelines?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
And Gail as well. I'm also on the committee, Sean.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. You can probably cover this swiftly. Haha. Anyway. Okay, good. So, working. All right. So the thought has, or at least my personal thought has been that the guidelines got too restrictive And we were requiring that a full payment had to be made for the device or whatever before we would consider assistance. And there were several cases where people, or more, I don't know about several, but I know of one specific where somebody bought an iPhone and they used the Apple payment system. So basically you got a charge card and over 24 months you would pay for the phone, which meant it would be 2 years before they could actually submit a request to the for support to the PHP committee, by which time they will have forgotten that they should do that. So the PHP committee has proposed 2 different changes to the current documents. The changes are that a request for assistance should be submitted once the purchased items have been received and at least the first payment made for the items.
Yeah.
And as added on to that is the receipt must be provided which completely identifies the purchase items and must show that at least an initial payment has been made for the items. And if the receipt for the item does not show the first payment, then proof of first payment must be submitted.
Right.
And I wanted to note something when Lee shared this with me, I explained that these days, most people, when they buy a device, it's going to be on a 2-year plan. That's kind of the rule of thumb now, whether you get it from T-Mobile, AT&T, Verizon, whoever. It's usually a two-year payment plan unless you have the ability to pay it outright and own it.
Yeah.
Yeah. The second change was in addition to because of the recent request that we're not going to reimburse extended warranties. So from the guidelines, the quote is no reimbursement will be made for additional or extended warranties.
Because most products come with a warranty, and many do. Many do already have a warranty that comes with them.
So basically that means, just as an example, and I'm not requesting assistance for it, but I bought a laptop that had a 1-year warranty. The merchant offered me another 2 years through Allstate, and that was a separate charge that I chose to pay. That type of charge we are no longer covering. So, whatever the normal cost of the item is, that includes the warranty from the manufacturer, that's fine. But if you want additional protection, that's on your dime.
Okay. So, thank you all for any other parts to that for the update for that. Do we have a comment or something? Okay. Okay.
2 points to consider. If someone pays in full by credit card and they pay soon after their cycle ends, they won't even get a bill for a month. And then that bill is not due for nearly another month. So that would could put them back 2 months before the payment actually shows paid. One thing to consider on that, if the 3-month limit if that 2 months is part of the 3-month limit, then that cuts their time to file down to 30 days. That's just something to consider. Because when you pay a bill on credit card, you don't get the bill immediately. And depending on when you pay it, you might not get the bill till the next month. After the month you charged it. Comment on the warranties. I think that's a good decision that warranties are covered by the individual. But one thing to consider, if someone gets an extended warranty, they're going to be buying equipment less often because the warranty will cover it. So if they buy equipment less often, then they would be requesting support less often. Just a consideration.
Okay. Thank you for those. In the committee, you can choose to take those considerations under advisement or not.
I have another question, Julie Russell. Is if somebody decides to pay cash for something, and since you guys want all of it at once, if they don't have all of it, could they give you their share and then you guys put it together and pay for it? Okay. We had a girl about a year ago that was going to get an iPhone. Hers had crashed. She uses it a lot for work. And she could not come up with the extra money because she was out of work for 6 months, but she wanted to pay cash. She's like me. She doesn't like credit cards. So we were going to give it to her because you guys wanted all the money. So we were going to give it to her. Well, her aunt found out and she just bought it for her. So that's a moot point now. But the question is, if we get somebody else who wants to pay cash, and since they have to have all of it, if they don't have all of it, can she give you or anybody give you their portion of it and let you put your portion with it and you guys buy it? So that way, you know, it's a good faith. Okay.
It's not part of the guidelines, period.
No.
So got in trouble last time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a no-go.
Well, if they, on the receipt, if they pay by cash, they own it.
It'll show on the
The
receipt.
They just need to make sure that they're whatever merchant they're paying cash to, that they get a receipt saying, you know, this is how much cash has been given. But
Which they should.
They should, yeah.
Okay. We have a few more things to get to before 2:30. So now can we have a report from?
Are we?
Okay. Oh, can we have a motion to approve? No.
A motion to approve the
The changes. A motion to approve the changes.
as stated.
We have a motion to approve the changes as stated. Erwin has moved. We have a second. Ed is, so we have Erwin has made a has moved. Erwin has Erwin has moved. Ed has second. All in favor say aye. All any nays? Oh, I definitely need to go back to bed. Okay, so can we have the ACB Ohio report, please?
Yes, so ACB Ohio, we have a couple of things going on. We are going to be heading to Washington, D.C. at the beginning of March to advocate for 4 issues this year, 4 imperatives. 3 are what I would call oldies but goodies, returning from the past. So we're going to be talking about the Website and Software Applications Act. So that is helping to make sure that websites and applications are accessible and that there's accountability for that accessibility. The second piece is the Communications and Video Technology Accessibility Act, and this deals with communication platforms such as Zoom and other platforms, making sure that those are accessible to people who are blind or low vision. The Medical Devices Non-Visual Accessibility Act. This is, again, making sure that people who need, in-home medical equipment have equal access to it. In very short summary. And the last one is the Medicare and Medicaid Dental, Vision, and Hearing Benefits Act. That is a new one for this year. So we have a lot of issues to talk to our congressional officials about, and there will be 6 of us going in person and a couple attending the conference virtually to make that happen this year. We also have our Ohio Connection newsletter is going to be coming out soon. So if you have articles for that, please send those to the Ohio. The email address for that is acbo.newsletter@gmail.com. Articles for the Ohio Connection are due on the 15th. So that's in a few days. Also coming up in March, on March the 6th, is the Voice Corps program on the morning exchange at 11 a.m. And that will feature Deborah Kendrick, who many of you know, and for those who don't know, she is a writer and advocate, and that's going to be a great discussion that day. And also happening in March, on March 14th, is our monthly membership call, and those are open at 7 p.m. The speaker for that will be Kirsten Schoberg, who is the executive director of Disability Rights Ohio. So those are just a few of the happenings going on with ACBO Ohio.
Thank you, Katie. Any questions for Katie? If there's no questions for Katie, I'd like to move on to anything that's old business. Anybody have any old business they want to address? I'm hearing silence, so I'll move on. I have one other item I want to cover under new business. This is kind of tied to the previous thing about committees. Same thing I was saying about budget and about sunshine. It's the same thing for programs. I know we all enjoy our speakers, but we, would like to maybe have it where, because it's been brought to my attention that some people feel like we should have some more variety in the speakers we have, as far as the topics that we have, and maybe not just speakers, but programming can be other social activities. At one point, I think the chapter had a whole tech thing going on, like tech classes, and that could be something that can be done not just with someone just here in the chapter, but someone else maybe inside of ACB, because I don't want to pile everything on top of Sean, because we know he's our resident tech guy. And so I also would like those who will be interested in being a part of a program committee to reach out to me, because we want to kind of broaden our programming portfolio as we move forward as an organization, and as we continue to be in session and grow. And I just want to put that out there as well. And if I don't have any volunteers, I'll just start picking people. I have no problem doing that. I was raised by a school teacher.
So,
Well,
can
one
we
thing-
include?
Oh, go ahead.
I was thinking of a program that we could do actually that to learn how to keep ourselves safe, in case we just happen to be accosted in a parking lot or someplace like that, there's an organization that could help us do that, including working with people like us that are visually impaired. So that was just one suggestion.
I would like more information about that. That sounds wonderful. Kind of like self-defense you're thinking, sort of?
Self-defense.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
Are you saying that we no longer want Denise to just handle the speakers anymore? Because I personally, and this is just my, I enjoy that. I felt that she's offered a lot of creativity in the speakers. And first of all, things like accessible pharmacy, which has become really essential in my life at this point. I wouldn't have known anything about that if it hadn't been for her. And so are we suggesting that we no longer want Denise to be the one making the speaker decisions? I'm just curious.
Well, what I'm suggesting is that it should be more than just Denise. Denise can still be a part of it. We need a variety of things. Not that we don't ever want speakers, but maybe we don't have a speaker every month. Maybe we have an activity at the end versus a speaker. Maybe we, just give us some variety. Because what I have noticed when I came on as president is, for example, on Zoom, when the speaker comes on, if it's a topic that we've heard about in the past, people disappear. And in some ways, that's not fair to the speaker. And so maybe we should be looking at, if we're going to have a speaker, maybe have some more ideas around that. And in person, you can't disappear if you're not interested. So either we need to have a variety of speakers and have more than just Denise doing that, or we need to do some other thing.
That doesn't deny that people still aren't going to leave if that's something they're not interested in.
But sometimes when you look at the Zoom, everybody's gone. I've watched it for a whole year. Even before I became president, I watched it.
So we're looking at developing a committee then for the speaker, is what you're saying. You
Yes,
want a
and
committee, just like you do the sunshine, just like, I'm
yes,
just asking. Okay.
yes, because everything should be a team effort. It shouldn't just really be on one person, because what if something happens to Denise, then what? We got to consider that as well. I mean, that's just the reality of life. We got to have a team to make this work, because if something happens to Denise, we don't know what's going on. So yes.
Let me know when it's my turn.
We got a comment over here.
Yeah. You go. On the self-defense at National, they have a group called One Touch. It is excellent. It is specifically made for blind people. You don't have to know where the person is. And their techniques are extremely effective. The only problem is, last time I knew, they didn't have any trainers in this area. So I can follow up on that to see if they have any trainers in this area, because it's like anything. Doing it once or twice, it's not usable. You have to practice enough that it becomes second nature.
Correct.
But One Touch is the name of the group, and they are excellent.
If you can find that out and email me about that, I would like to see the information.
Shouldn't we get a committee together first before, if we're gonna do this committee thing?
Yes, we're going to get a committee together, but still, I would like to see things as well, because also what needs to be noted is that, whether it's me or anybody else who is the president, when organizations want to come and talk about things and have to decide whether or not it's appropriate for our group, they go on the ACB Ohio website and they see whoever the president's name is, whether it's me or anybody else. And so, when things bring to me, I want to be able to come to a committee and say, this is what we have. What do you all think? Is this viable for our people? And so that's also why we need to have a committee, because we need more rounded communication in general on things like that. And plus, we want to keep people engaged, because I know that some people who are members, they donate because they want to support the work that we do. But I also have noticed that we have a roster of 62 people, but I always seem to see the same 20 or so folks come to the chapter meetings. And I know there might be various reasons why that is, but even if we are looking to move forward, we want to be able to have things that will draw in people of all ages, younger people, middle-aged people. And so that's also why I want to have a committee, because we got to kind of have a more rounded approach to everything.
Janae?
Yes.
I would suggest another committee, I would call it the events committee.
Okay.
And for one thing, if our choices continue to contract, the later one waits in the year to do the Christmas party, the fewer choices there are. And then the summer is another venue. And this is the month, or no later than March is when we ought to get moving on that.
Yes.
And then a bizarre idea occurred to me as like, gee, I wonder what would happen if we bought 20 tickets for chapter, blind and visually impaired people in the Central Ohio area to go to a Harmony Project concert and pay $10 for their transportation.
How about this? A Harmony Project concert is May the 9th. It's a Thursday and it's free. And they're wanting to invite all the local non-for-profits in the Franklin County area.
There we go.
So there's an outing.
Anyhow, the events committee is a necessary thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Just in general. So just trying to have more rounded communication as we grow. And I get, like Larry and Nikki said, with COVID, some things got slowed down, changed, switched around. But trying to find ways for us as a chapter in tandem with the organization and what the state does and national and such, in some ways, not everything, but in some ways, kind of keep the train moving.
Denise speaking, just for the record, we did have a person speak about self-defense. I can't recall her last name right now. Her first name is Julie. And that was before you were on board, Janae. But, and I will also say that people have suggested various people along the way, and those have always been integrated. in the speaker content. And I will continue to, I will finish off by saying that I am removing myself from the speaker committee completely, and that I have done this since November of 2017, and I have never had an empty speaker slot in all that time. So I'm very proud of the work I've done, and I'm happy to leave.
No, I want you to stay because you.
Oh, no, I'm finished.
Okay. That's fine.
If I could interject too, speaking of Voice Corps, the great program that Vicki did on Wednesday, we had Kate Morris, who from the Cincinnati chapter, and they are so busy with fundraisers and things. I wondered maybe we could even bring Kate in or someone like that from Cincinnati to give us some suggestions on where they, how they do things in Cincinnati.
That would be a possible idea as well.
Well, and she could come in on Zoom that if she wanted to.
Yeah. Yep. She was really good. Yep.
No one
I
else
would
can
also
do it. I would
suggest
like-
that you connect with people who are leaving the meeting rather than attending to the speaker, and find out if they have some other commitment, if they have a topic they'd like to suggest. So
Yeah,
I
that's
open that to the committee.
correct. That's kind of why I want to do that, because people have reached out to me. That's why I'm saying what I'm saying. And it's not to be a personal attack, but and then plus also.
No, I just encourage the people that are registering those comments to get involved.
Yes, correct.
See a Seth Wilson in Zoom. I don't know if is that our
Is that our speaker?
That is our speaker.
Okay. And he's from the OCO app, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
Which is a wonderful app.
And if no one else is going to do it, I want to thank you for your many years of service for speakers.
Absolutely.
Denise,
Yes, I was
thank you
getting ready to
very
do that
much.
as well.
Thank you, Lee and Sean. I'm very grateful. Thank you. I know you're sincere.
And I am too, Denise.
Thank you, Gail. That's my committee, my PHP committee. They love
you
me.
got a round of applause, Denise.
We're a great committee.
We are a great committee.
You got a round of applause in the room. You won't have heard it on
Yes.
Zoom.
Thank you,
People
everyone.
applauded for all that you've done.
Yeah.
All right. Is there any other concerns anybody has? That's kind of what I want to cover because it's still the top of the year. And if there's no other concerns, would someone like to make a motion that we adjourn the meeting?
I motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Erwin, I think said it first. Denise, would you like?
I'll second.
Okay, so Erwin has motioned. Denise, well, no, Denise is seconding it. Thank you, Carol. Yes. So we have Erwin has made a motion to adjourn. Denise has seconded it. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, meeting has been
Mark's
adjourned.
hand is raised in Zoom. Were you attempting to unmute or did you have a question? Mark, you are unmuted. If
Oh, yeah, Sean.
did you have something?
Yeah, probably doesn't hurt to ask offhand. Probably my old, big bulky heavy cassette player from the NL probably bit the dust years ago, a while ago. I sent it back in recycle there. And yeah, I've got a new digital cartridge player I've used for years and another cassette player. I kind of like the old, but had like a speed lever. They pull things down when you kind of want to. Like probably by any chance anybody might have an old bulky cassette player laying around home from years gone by or not.
Mark, I tell you what, can you catch up with me? Because if you do have a question, do you have concerns about library playback equipment, I can relay those to can find out if you need if from Tracy if you have concerns. So why don't you give me a call this coming Thursday? Can you go ahead and do that?
Okay, yeah.
Just like you called me, just like you gave me a call today, just give me a call on Thursday.
Yeah, I just thought, given the other old
because it's hard to hear you at the moment. So,
Yeah.
Oh,
but-
okay.
so catch up with me, and I'll see what I can do to help.
Okay. You're busy. It's not next meeting there. Take care.
Yeah, just catch up with me.
Okay.
All right, and you're welcome to stay.
Are we good to go?
Should be.
In just a moment.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're ready for the speaker. Go ahead.
Testing, testing. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, great. Hi everyone. Thanks so much for inviting me to this. I work for the OCO app, which sounds like at least one of you has used and enjoys. So nice to hear that. My talk is going to be short and sweet, and most of the time I want to spend answering questions, but I will spend 5 or 10 minutes kind of telling you about the OCO app and its history and what it does and kind of how to use it effectively. So my name is Seth Wilson. Again, I work for the OCO app, but I myself am also legally blind. I have optic nerve hypoplasia, so I have some functional usable vision out of my left eye, and then right eye I have kind of some residual vision, kind of see shapes and colors and stuff, but nothing that useful. So the app, kind of the history of me working for the app was I discovered the app last summer and really enjoyed using it, and it gave me some additional confidence in street crossings, and so I reached out to the guys and said, hey, I'd love to help with this project, and the rest is history. So that's kind of my history with the app. But the history of the app itself is it actually was created by 3 AI scientists in Belgium a few years ago. They were doing AI back before it was cool. So these guys had Michael and Willem and Vincent are our kind of founders, and they had a mutual friend named Kenny who's totally blind, and like all of us, Kenny faced problems crossing streets safely, and they wanted to help their friend and see if they could use their kind of AI expertise to make a product that would help him cross streets with a little more confidence. And so the OCO app was born, and once they kind of prototyped it and it worked for him and they had some success, they then reached out to O&M professionals there in Belgium, and then last year they moved to the States. We've been in the States for almost a year now, which is kind of crazy to say. And so we're we operate in the States and in Belgium and a couple other countries, but looking now to expand to Canada, and we're also in Japan. So we've helped with thousands, hundreds of thousands of street crossings. So we feel really good about that. So that's kind of a brief history of OCO. So what exactly is OCO? Well, it's iPhone only for the moment, but it's an app that uses artificial intelligence, as I said, AI, big buzzword now, along with your iPhone's rear camera to translate the signals you get, the kind of visible signals that show up on a traditional pedestrian system. So the kind of red hand for don't walk, the kind of white walking figure for walk, and then the hand with a countdown timer for a countdown, i.e., kind of similar to yellow light in driving parlance. So it takes those signals, those visual signals that we as blind people have trouble seeing, and converts them to various kinds of feedback that do work better for us. So gives 3 kinds of feedback. It gives audio beep, so it will beep slowly for don't walk. It will beep quickly for the walk signal, and it will kind of beep in a kind of staccato, long, short, ascending tone for the countdown timer. So you audibly know which one is being displayed at any given time. It also provides haptic feedback, that is vibrations. So your phone will vibrate to those same rhythms. So even if it's a loud or noisy environment, you can still tell what the traffic signal is indicating. And last but not least, for those of us who do have some residual vision, it also displays on the screen either red for the don't walk signal, green for the walk signal, and yellow for the countdown. So 3 kinds of feedback, and that's kind of what I love about the Oko app is the simplicity of it. That's kind of what it does, and that's what it's great at doing. There are some tips for using it effectively. So kind of the workflow for us blind people using Oko is we approach, and this is a good time for me to say also that Oko is not by any means meant to replace your O&M skills. You still need good O&M skills, cane, guide dog use, all of that's still really important. Like all these other apps out there, it's just a tool in your toolbox to, as I said earlier, build some confidence, add some confidence that you know you're crossing a street safely. So the way it works is you approach a street crossing, either with your finding the truncated domes with your cane, or your dog stops at the curb, what have you, and then opening the Oko app. And one problem that people sometimes have is finding the getting lined up with the pedestrian signal. So one thing we suggest is to kind of hold the phone at chest level, kind of against your chest. And let's say your parallel street is to your right. If you kind of start facing a little bit left and rotate your body rightwards, as soon as the phone sees, quote unquote, the pedestrian signal, it will start making noise. The app will be silent until it sees the pedestrian signal, and as soon as it sees it, it'll kind of lock onto it and start giving you feedback on what the signal is showing. So at that point, you can use that along with your other traffic cues to cross safely. Additionally to that, one cool benefit to the app is I have a problem, and other people do too, of kind of in the crossing of veering off one way or the other. So veering off out of the crosswalk, which obviously is not good. So that same principle that I mentioned earlier of the app being silent if it doesn't see a pedestrian signal can be used to keep lined up as you're crossing the street. So keeping the app open as you cross, and as long as you're still going in the right direction and you're lined up properly, the app will keep beeping. If it stops beeping, you know you've fallen out of line and need to kind of realign. One kind of cool mnemonic device for remembering this is if you're not hearing, you're veering. I think another chapter came up with that, and I thought that was pretty cool. So that's kind of another cool use for Oko. Just a couple of other notes about it. The app does all this kind of machine learning AI magic on your phone, so it's not sending any data to the internet. So at least for the purposes of crossing, we do some analytics to like improve the app, but for the actual processing of the signal, it all happens on your phone, which means you could use this in airplane mode if you wanted to. I don't know why you would, but you could. But it also means that in areas like where I live, I'm currently in Texas, and the cell signal is not always great here. But even if you don't have good cell signal, the app will function properly and work as expected because everything happens on device, which is pretty neat. Last suggestion I'd make is there are lanyards out there that will hold your cell phone kind of in a pouch around your neck, kind of at the right chest level. And this can be helpful because, you know, as blind people, we're always a hand short, right? Like either you've either got a cane or a guide dog harness in one hand, so it can kind of be awkward to hold the phone in the other hand at all times. So it can be helpful to get one of those lanyards. There's not a particular one we recommend, but they are out there. I think NFP, one of the organizations, offers these, but they're out there. So that's just one more tip for using the app kind of effectively. And that's the end of my kind of pre-planned spiel. At this point, I'd love to open it up for any questions you guys have.
Hi, my name is Julie,
Hey,
and
Julie.
we love you.
Aw.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. This allows us to go where there's no audible signals, and I've just lost a bunch more vision. And thank you again. Also, how does this work in smaller towns? Is it for all walk signs?
Any of the kind of standard signals that I described earlier that use the standard pedestrian language of the, the hand for don't walk, the little walk guy for walking. Any kind of signals that have been made in the last 20, 30 years, I'd say, I don't know when they switched over to that, will work. There are some older systems that, I think will actually display the words walk and don't walk, and we don't work with those just because they're kind of phasing those out, and so we haven't put effort into those. But yeah, like I live in a pretty small town. I don't know how big Columbus is, but Tyler, Texas, where I am, is I don't know, less than around 100,000. So it's medium size, I guess. But yeah, any place with a standard pedestrian signal will work. Obviously, it won't work at stop signs or
No.
anything like that. But yeah.
And the other question I had is, I'm in charge of an I'm sorry, guys, Ohio Blind Vendors Convention.
Oh, cool.
Can I get some either literature or so that I can pass that around to them? There's about 80 vendors.
Oh yeah, for sure. I guess I can put my phone number and email in the chat, or whatever's. I give you my information. We can get in touch.
That would be awesome, because we give an information packet, and so this would be really cool for everybody to have.
Yeah. That would be great for us too.
Okay, well, thank you again.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad it's so helpful for you.
Yeah, I have a question as well. Let's give a situation where I'm walking and the street I want to cross is actually on the left. And there's a light pole that I can hear with my echolocation. And I press the button, but it's not, I don't want to cross the street in front of me. I want to turn left then and cross that street. How long does it take OCO to respond to that turn that I'm making and not want to react to the street that I'm facing, but the one to the left that I'm actually going to turn to and cross? Does that make sense?
Right. So you've got the app and you're facing. You've got the app open. And you're facing
Yeah, it's in a
the one you
lanyard.
don't want to cross.
Right. Right.
But you make the turn. I would say in theory it should be pretty instantaneous. Like in practice, I would probably give it a couple of seconds just to make sure.
Okay.
But in theory, it should be pretty quick. I don't. My theory even with OCO, which I love, is always trust but verify. Like I said, this is kind of a tool in your O&M toolbox, so I'd still listen to parallel traffic for some confirmation or things like that if possible. But
yeah, sometimes it's hard if you're on a really busy road to pay attention to both. It's hard for me to focus to multitask. And
yeah, I get that.
And it's hard to pay attention. And one day it was saying don't walk, but cars will tend to stop anyway if they see a blind person.
Right.
And there's at least one car that I know stopped, and I hadn't got the signal to walk yet. I'm thinking, okay, is this device delayed, or is it just one car is stopping?
Yeah, or sometimes they'll slow down. I think the other thing is sometimes if there's the drivers have a yellow light and they know it's about to change to red, they'll stop even before that.
Or a right turn on red.
Right, all that stuff. And that's all stuff that we don't account for right now. We would like to. We're working pretty hard to start accounting for that stuff. But yeah.
But it is really neat because this guy asked me once if I was ready to cross the street. He asked me if I wanted help, and I said, "Oh, I think I've got it." And so all of a sudden, OCO said, "Walk, walk," and the guy next to me heard. He's like, "Oh, that's pretty cool."
Right. Yeah, it is. It is kind of like magic. The first time you use it, I was
like,
blown away.
Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you.
So, question: how do you get the app? I mean, how do you get started?
So it's like I said, it's iPhone only, and if you go into the App Store and search for OKO, it should be the first result you get. I could also, if you want, I could send you a link. I just put my phone number in the chat, or I can say it's 903-787-2552. If any of you just want to text me, I'm happy to
But
send you a.
what I'm attempting to do is I'm gonna attempt to send that to our members group. I was able to copy it out of the chat that you know. That's not what I want to do. I was able to copy it out of the chat, and I'm in the process of trying to send it in an email to our members group. So assuming I can get that done, then you guys will have it.
Great, awesome, thanks. So yeah, you can search for the app in the App Store. Like I said, get in touch with me directly, and I'm happy to send you a link. And then, like, it is a pretty easy process once you install it. Like you do, like most apps, you kind of have to allow notifications and allow. So the app does use GPS to a limited extent. So if you're approaching an intersection where you've crossed before, the app kind of knows that and will give you a notification. Hey, you're approaching an intersection you've crossed before, things like that. So doesn't use GPS a lot, but anyway, it's just the usual kind of onboarding stuff when you install a new app of allowing notification, and then I think you have to agree to our terms and conditions, which are largely like I said earlier, the disclaimer that hey, this is not a replacement for O&M skills.
Hi, this is Laura. I have a question. I was in a town where the crosswalks went diagonally. So how does this help you for going diagonally?
So as long as assuming the pedestrian signal is lined up with the crosswalk, it really doesn't matter which kind of direction or what layout the crosswalk is, as long as and I'm sure they are, or they should be, if they're designed correctly, the pedestrian signal should be right at the crosswalk. So as long as you're lined up with the crosswalk correctly and the OCO app is telling you to cross, it should, again, in theory, work. I mean, obviously, like one thing I often do at new intersections is wait a traffic cycle and kind of use the app and listen to what it's saying, and also listen to the traffic patterns to give myself a full cycle, just to kind of understand where things are coming from.
The problem that when you do that, though, sir, is that people will come up and they think you're having trouble.
Right? Yeah, I know it's a trade-off, but yeah, I mean, you meet some new people that way, right?
I guess.
I would rather do that.
Though, it's nice to know that people are willing to help others today.
True, and I had this is stuck with me from like first grade O&M teacher. She said, it's better to lose a moment of your life than lose your life in a moment. So it's really cheesy, but that's always stuck with me. Like, okay, I'm in a hurry. I need to cross the street, but okay, I'm gonna wait. It's fine. If I'm late for this meeting, it's gonna be okay. But if I don't know.
I have a question. You were saying you were talking about the possibility of turning it on airplane mode. If I haven't done that and somebody tries to call, does that interfere with the app? Because I've not had that happen.
That's a great question. I've not had that happen either, and I've never been asked that. So the short answer is I don't know for sure, but I would imagine, I think the way that iPhone is kind of designed is that, yeah, a call will always supersede any app that's open. So I don't know if there's some way of circumventing that, because obviously that could be a potential safety concern if you're in the middle of a street, or yeah. So that's a really good question.
My suggestion.
You could also turn off notifications.
Well, I was going to say, do not disturb.
Yeah,
probably
that's
be the best if you know you're going to be crossing streets with it. That might be the best way. Or what you could do is, you could configure a focus for OKO, and just tell it to disallow phone calls but allow other notifications. So, we know that there are focuses like sleep, reading, do not disturb that are standard, but you could make one called OKO and just tell it to not allow phone calls from anyone, but allow other things if you really did want other notifications. So you have that flexibility.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
I also saw on the website that you were looking to include bus stops.
Yeah, so we're thinking about, so I guess the overall premise of the way that we're thinking about the OKO app and just the way we want to continue is like we kind of want to start where GPS stops. So the idea, GPS will get you most of the way to where you're going, but especially for us pedestrians, it's not precise enough to find a specific bus stop or find a specific shop, especially like in a strip mall or things like that. So we're thinking about, yeah, so there's a that you're at an intersection where there's a bus stop nearby, and the same using the same kind of AI kind of image processing stuff that we use to determine the traffic signal, we should in theory be able to use to say, hey, this phone is pointed at a bus stop. There's a bus stop in front of you. Things like that. So yeah, we're definitely thinking along those lines because that's something I struggle with. I was in New York in December, and instead of like the usual touristy pictures you get, I have pictures, for example, of like all the metro subway stations, and like, so the way I see where I need to go is I have enough vision. If I take a photo of the sign, I can kind of see there's a sign there, and then I take a picture of it and I blow it up, and I can, once I magnify it, I can kind of see what stops it, what routes it includes. So I have tons of like random pictures of escalator signs and things like that. So all that sort of stuff I can see Yoko really helping out with.
Can you say a bit about your background and what led you to connect with this company?
Yeah, so my background interest, yeah, it's so as you said, I have optic nerve hypoplasia, or as I said earlier, and I was born with it. Grew up in Hawaii, and then have lived all over the world. Just my dad traveled a lot for work, and so ended up here in Texas. And I currently work, my kind of main full-time job is as a software developer, so I work in tech. But I'm interested in kind of transitioning from kind of writing code and that sort of thing to the more business end of things and kind of planning features, kind of designing features for apps like this. It's the role that I'm kind of looking to get into is called product management, and so I part of why I reached out to this company is I thought, no, I might be able to be helpful to them, and this would also be a kind of good kind of career transition potential for me. So that's kind of how I got involved with it, from a kind of career standpoint. But also, as I said earlier, I really loved the concept of the app and really loved using it. So I knew they had a good thing going.
Hey, Seth.
Anyone
This is Larry and Nikki Hansen.
Hi.
Maybe this is kind of a silly question, but what are the costs involved with an app like this?
That's not a silly question at all. It's so to answer the like immediate concern from your guys' standpoint is we intend to keep the app free for users. So that's our goal. It's free now, and it's going to be free for the foreseeable future. So then the question becomes, well, how do I get paid, and how do we make money as a company? Because obviously development is difficult and all that stuff, especially if we want to grow and do those things. So we've got a lot of ideas for that, and we're kind of right now we're working off of some venture capital, and we're hoping to secure some more of that. But long term, one of the ways that and I think we've already kind of done this in Europe to some extent, is through cities funding us to a certain extent. So, for example, the cost for a city to install an audio pedestrian system is kind of enormous, right? It's like, I think figures I've heard are around $50,000 per APS. So if you're thinking about a four-way intersection, you need eight APSs, right, to cross in each of those streets in both directions. So just one intersection alone can be pretty expensive, and they take a while to install. So we're not trying to compete with APSs, but we're kind of approaching cities in the standpoint that we're providing, while cities are installing these, an alternative to their citizens to travel more freely, things like that. So cities also, the healthcare angle, to let people who are part of an insurance plan, say Medicare, Medicaid, to travel with more confidence. So we're kind of approaching it from the health angle as well. Yeah, we're still figuring out the money of it all, to be honest, and that's not a silly question at all. It's definitely important to our longevity. So
Well, that was
yeah.
going to be my question, because I like what you're doing. Sounds fantastic, but if somebody doesn't have an iPhone, if you guys are coming to cities, is that going to disincentivize them from installing accessible signals for people that don't have an iPhone, or don't people that really need an accessible signal? And I'm thinking of deaf-blind people in particular, where, I mean, I know that the app vibrates, but not everybody has a smartphone and wants one. So that's just a concern I have, is that, if that's the approach that's being taken, I feel like that's going to lock out people who are not smartphone users, and not everybody is.
Yeah, I definitely get that, and I think I'm kind of not part of those negotiating conversations, but I think we're sensitive to that, and taking that into account, as we do. I mean, approaching it from another angle, like we do want to, or iOS only now, and we do want to be have an Android version at some point. There's a lot of challenges for that, but even if we cover Android, you're right, there are a lot of people who don't use
Well, and the other thing
smartphones.
you might want to look at is you might need to do the Android first, but you might also look at like the blind shell, because
Yes, blind shell.
there are people that might be more comfortable with that phone, since it has actual buttons. I don't know how capable the camera is in that kind of thing, but that's something I would also like to see considered, is that there are um, one use case I know of for the blind shell is somebody, her husband has had traumatic brain injuries, and the touchscreen just does not work for him, but he can use the blind shell perfectly well. So I wonder, and now there is a company, Blind Shell USA. The company themselves have a US office now. So I just wonder if that's something you thought about.
I personally had not heard of them, but I'm looking them up right now, and it does sound really cool. Yeah, I would like that.
That's Android based, I believe.
Okay, yeah. I mean, one of the problems that we have is not only the camera, but also the processor needs, because we do all the processing on the phone itself. The processor needs to be kind of beefy enough to do that quickly. So that's another concern, but it's worth at least looking at. And gosh, I also have a hunch, like all this AI and augmented reality stuff is changing so fast right now, that like I have a hunch that within the next year, like some technology will come out, whether it's us figuring something cool out or someone else figuring something cool out, that will just totally change the game. And like,
There'll be a little handheld Alexa device. You just push a button and say, Alexa, tell me when it's 8 across the street.
right, yeah, something like, so like all this stuff we're talking about now, like could go out the window in the next year. So like this stuff is moving so fast. So it's kind of an interesting time to be in something like this.
Yes, as the sighted person in the group, I get to guide people to restrooms all the time, and the restroom doors, it may say man, woman, some strange shape that you don't know what it is. And it's German, like two identical looking figures. So I think you need an app called Restroom Radar.
I love that actually.
That's right. So you
Probably
find
not
yourself in a black box. Oh, that moves the phone around and so. Oh yeah,
that's immense. I've not often, thankfully, but I have walked into the wrong restroom before. So yeah, that.
Yeah, for me it only took one daiquiri, so that was not a good thing.
Yeah, that might have been part of my problem too. Might have been more alcohol related than blindness related.
How do you spell Oko?
OKO. It's Croatian for I, by the way, which is we chose it because it's a unique name. There's no other apps called Oko. And if we had called it like pedestrian guide or something like that, there's probably a bunch of other pedestrian apps on the App Store, but Oko is a unique name.
Another thing that's really hard, when you go on an elevator, trying to find the button. I don't know why they have to have 20 buttons on an elevator.
Right.
Because there's 20 floors.
When you get on the elevator, this is besides the floor numbers, and outside when you call the elevator, they have all these buttons and you don't know which button is the up or down.
Right. Yeah, that would be neat. And unfortunately, like those aren't the problem with both the bathroom signs and the elevators is unlike pedestrian signals, those are not standardized. So it'd be very hard to teach a computer, okay, this is still possible, but harder to teach a computer to recognize dozens of possible elevator configurations versus just this one traffic configuration that we have. But I love restroom radar. Like I think that should be a feature in the app.
Don't see
Seeing
any
no
other
more questions in the room.
I don't see any other questions in Zoom. You can, it's quiet enough at the moment, if you'd like to unmute and speak, Alt A on the PC, Command Shift A on the Mac, star numeral 6 on your touch tone phone, and the mute button is on the bottom left corner of the smartphone app.
Thank you for your information that you shared with us. This is new to me, and so I'm looking for all the information on different things that I can get. So thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. You're very welcome.
If someone could verify for me that I was able to get the contact information out to the members list, that'd be good. I can't see whether I did it properly, so if somebody could look.
Yes, Sean, it came.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Sweet. Yeah, thanks for sending that out. And yeah, feel free to text or call.
I was fighting with the quote unquote standard view of Gmail.
Oh gosh.
I was hoping I did it right, and apparently I did.
Goodness.
Seth, thank you for setting time aside to speak to us about OKO today and allowing it to be so informal for such an interactive discussion. Much appreciated.
Yeah, thanks, Denise. I prefer it that way. Like I could spout stuff at you guys for 30 minutes, but
you've got quite an applause just now.
Thank you guys so much.
Over Zoom, but you got quite an applause.
Cheers to OKO. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys so much. And, hope to talk to some of y'all soon.
All right. I'm going to close down.
My headset battery is about to die, so it's perfect time.
We're closing down the meeting now.
Bye.